Slander. The action or crime of making a false-spoken statement damaging to a person's reputation. Just to make it clear, these videos that I make, the one where I exposed her and this other video that I'm exposing more of Ron Keffer, is not slander, but instead telling the truth. All screenshots that I provide are not fake, not photoshopped, not AI, and it's showing Ron Keffer's true intentions. In this video, I'll be taking a deep dive into Ron Keffer's recent response, and I have a few more proof and evidence of him not being a mature person despite being 23. In fact, I even have some people who want to speak about Ron Keffer. Their voice files will be shown in this video. Shoutouts to Jino for making this wanted poster of Ron Keffer. He probably put a bunch of detail into it, just want to get that out of the way. And let's show off the first piece of the response that he made after I made my expose video on him. First piece of evidence is Ron Keffer telling to my friend Kaliraf, stating that Ron Keffer has wrote a book on him killing me because in his opinion it helps him vent. This is very immature for Ron, and while I am 18 years old, he's telling this to a 15-year-old. Well, but still, he's telling this to a minor. Not me, a different minor. Why would you tell a child this? Another piece of evidence is Ron Keffer making a post about us that has slurs and insults directly to me and my friends. This is a 23-year-old man, by the way. This guy's an adult, and he's acting like a child. It's bad enough when a child is acting mature like an adult, but it's worse if an adult is acting the complete opposite. This screenshot was taken by my friend's sister, where Ron Keffer was talking to her and trying to convince my friend's wife to unblock Ron Keffer. Fun fact, he's been stalking this 16-year-old girl, by the way. Yes, my friend's sister is 16 years old. And all of these screenshots were taken by my friend Kayla, as unfortunately Ron Keffer decided to drag her into this mess. And you can pause in the screenshots here, but essentially, Ron Keffer talked to Kayla again and bringed up, which, fun fact, Kayla is also a minor, which I'm starting to see a pattern. Every time nothing goes his way and starts crying like a little bitch, he starts crying like a little bitch towards minors. I'm starting to think that because Kayla, Kaliraf, and a few other people I mentioned are minors, I think he's trying to manipulate them. And that's enough from my perspective. I have a few witnesses that want to talk about Ron Keffer and his crummy, shitty behavior. Some of them are going to be altered because, again, they want to be anonymous. But I'll add a little name to them in case you know who's.
At first, I thought he was a pretty decent guy, but things took a turn for the worst. Late last year, I became friends with Ron Keffer in late 2024. Things were fine at first, but things took a drastic downward turn slowly. Several red flags emerged around the self-proclaimed main character who seemed to be a badass. If someone else had a different opinion, he would try to explain his perspective in a poorly tainted manner. For example, he likes to make fun of most anime shows, like Sailor Moon and My Hero Academia, claiming it was pedophile bait. However, that honestly was not really the case. with every other fucking anime show that existed. Moving along, he slowly became friends with my wife, which was friendly at first, but turned out as time went on, it turned into a creepy obsession to the point that Ron Keffer said that he would make a better partner for my wife. However, the final nail in the coffin that would destroy this relationship came after I blocked him on Discord. He continued to message me. He continued to message my wife, and after my wife blocked him, then he began stalking me on a fanfiction app called Wattpad. Things only got worse from there, where he started messaging my sister, who is a minor. So, in my personal opinion, Ron Keffer should be locked up in jail, where he can never stalk me, my wife, my sister, be a lazy, fat, degenerate, immature, 2-bit lying piece of shit, cock-sucking ass child molesting Yukari Gooter again. Because honestly, he should have done better than to rizz up two people who are very close to me in life. But that's not all he did to me. He's done to a considerable amount of damage to another friend of mine, who explained his experiences with that ungrateful blonde-haired cunt. And yes, Ron, you honestly should have done better.
Well, never in my 23 years of life have I ever seen something this very fucking retarded coming out of Ronnie. Oh, speaking of which, hello, this is COTM Productions once again. I am also here to explain about the controversy surrounding the real Ron Keffer, not the character. Really, no. And of course, ignoring the post he made about the situation involving his character in the Rebirth series, I clearly meant every word that I said. Formerly, I used to side with him during the ongoing feud between him and Cole, but after realizing the truth with the help of a great collection of good friends, I finally understood that I was kind of an idiot. However, there was more to Ron than I thought of by the time I was friends with him. Friends, quote unquote. But you know. But the more I learned about him, the more I began digging deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole of complex bullshit coming out of his asshole. It's plainly obvious that he sits on a giant-ass throne of lies, and some of those lies can be almost convincing for anyone to believe. However, my eyes are no longer averted from the true bullshit origins of Ron Keffer. Here's a giant reason why I had decided to wake up and uncover the truth surrounding this false Giga Chad idol once and for all. Originally, I formally agreed to make the Keffer series for Ron, which was an alternate take on the story of Persona 3. From the way Ron described it, he claimed that it was a perfected peak version of Persona 3. Ha! No. For my eyes, it was honestly nothing but a watered-down, stupider version of the story. This time it was filled with Strega being a group of freaky-like Diddy rapists, Yukari being a copy and paste of Cars 299's Yukari, and the rest of the C's being entirely different from their original counterparts, such as Akihiko taking a liking to baseball, Ken being Canadian, Mitsuru who is not the leader of C's, Fuka who cooks well, Shinjiro who supposedly survives and not the one, murders Ken's mom, instead it's Jin, Igus who supposedly receives backlash from Ron due to her being responsible for the death of his fictional parents shared with Kodane, who unfortunately acts as Ron's sister instead of Makoto's, since he was dead, and Junpei being reduced to an unlikable brain rot filled member who dies from tentacle rape where nobody seems to care. Also, the Junpei that Ron creatively based all of his ideas on was from his younger, but even worse, goonery, horny-ass fuck of a brother. And of course, yeah, Ron made a self-censored shitshow character, Gary Stu, who was the self-proclaimed leader and founder of C's, or shit in his scripts, for some reason. He is liked by mainly everyone other than Strega and the alternate Junpei, along with having Yukari unrealistically fall in love with him in the span of 2 days and constantly having the need to suck his dick every week or month or whatever. The worst part about it might not just be the fact that it exists, but no. The worst part about the Kefferverse overall is when Ron literally and abundantly ignores the consequences of death and fucking survives along with Kodane, completely disregarding the morals of Persona 3 in a whole. After I decided to cancel the entire Keffer series, not just because it was due to a burnout, but because I concluded it was nothing but just an embarrassing fucking parody of Persona 3 itself, as if it was a huge insult to the original game as a whole. Now, I know you're going to say that I kind of kept Makoto alive in my series, but that's totally different than Liberation of Atlas. But at least I altered a few things in the story and stuck with how the characters are supposed to be, along with Shinjiro's fate being inescapable more than Atlas. At least I didn't turn Strega into a bunch of rapists and have Chidori goon over a so-called Giga Chad self-insert protagonist. At least I didn't fucking pull a Ron and change them to be brainless idiots slobbering all over Gary Stu's tiny cock except for one. At least I didn't base everything from my life into a series that I constructed with proper time, care, and respect. My experience working with Ron Keffer has been here and there, but in all honesty, and yes, I really mean it, it has been a complete waste of fucking time, as I dealt with more projects and college assignments earlier this year while I was trying to maintain everything back and forth. It was at that moment when I was slowly losing complete interest in the Kefferverse. After listening to my friends and especially Cole's experiences with Ron, I concluded that when it came to multiple projects, Ron barely does any of the work. Then he throws in multiple ideas all at once, hardly anyone's agreement, and expects us to make it work. The people who had constantly dealt with this issue were Cole, me, and a few other friends of ours who had hated putting Ron in their stories to begin with. Technically, I am still in Cole's Rebirth series, but I am voicing multiple characters plus the same original OC that is not a self-insert to begin with. Ron. Since I have put a lot of work into my videos, it made more sense for me as a content creator to help Cole out with his own. There are a lot of major differences between us, and the only difference that separates Cole and I from Ron is that we choose how we want to make our videos, and not cater to someone who can't make any good content for shit. And if things don't go his way, wait until you see what he does next. Get off my dick, Ron! There are 1,000 things that we all want to discuss about Ron's inglorious downfall, but as far as we are concerned, we cannot just sit idly by and let him lie any longer. So far, Ron has allegedly lied multiple times about his backstory, stalked others, including minors, without his consent, including friends of mine, leached off of others' content to insert his lousy, quote-unquote, peak fanfic ideas of Persona 3 story, made obvious threats and out-of-pocket insults that were racist and homophobic, suicide-baited people for being rejected by everyone who has had enough of his bullshit, and refused to accept all criticism regardless of who tells him that he's in the wrong. I believe that the best thing to do about Ron is to just, block him and report him for his actions, as mentioned in this documentary video. Regardless of what he said and done, there's literally no other excuse for him to pull out of his ass. If you see him on any social media platform trying to tell you the true side of his story, then don't even bother. You can just, you can notice by his cringy ass AI avatar that he uses, because he doesn't have black hair, and the whole Canadian tuxedo thing is kind of fucking ass, not gonna lie. It is bluntly obvious that he's a lying piece of chicken, and that is why, Ron, I know you would say that you didn't mean all those things to those people, but why would you assume that I didn't mean all those things I said about you and your self-insert character in that review Cole and I did? Why do you waste your time acting like a blood-sucking mosquito while making us all have to deal with your shit? Please stop assuming things about all the people that you verbally hurt in your 23 years of life and take fucking accountability for your actions, you idiot. Take accountability. Take responsibility. Accept criticism. Don't push people away. You need to understand that not everything you do will always be justifiable. And that is final because you know damn well that it is true.
At first, I thought Ron and I could bond due to our mutual dislike of Junpei. I was really mistaken heavily because of him lying or just being a creep. I'm 15, I was 14 at the time, and the dude made me take a rice purity test. Fucking pedophile. He also pisses me off with his own hypocritical statements. He says he hates things like pedos, which is good, but then he has to say, oh, Yukari's born in 1992, so legally it's allowed for me to fuck her because she's older than me. Like, shut the fuck up, you ugly ass fucking pedophile. If you have to say a character was born at a certain time and compared to the real world, you already lost the argument. I could get if it's Ultimax Yukari, but no. He likes writing fanfics about himself fucking the 16-year-old one. He also has to lie always for some reason. He's a chronic liar. Don't talk to this dude. I could probably name like 10 things about him lying. Him lying about his race. Him lying about almost getting raped by a gay dude. That one guy who has... Him saying he murdered people and got away with it because of judges. Him lying about not being a racist after he said he would quote-unquote slam my dark /black ass. Him saying he's traveling the world because he's a Marvel /X-Men fan. Him saying he graduated out high school when he dropped out in the 10th grade. Him lying about being fit. He's not. He's fat. He lied about graduating from university. He lied about being born in a rice field. And because there was a whole rice field joke going on with Carlos's video. He lied about his identity to half of his friends so he seems cool. That's his words. He's lame as fuck. He knows he's a loser. He also likes lying about his little brother buying porn games on a Steam account and his little brother breaking his PS5. Beyond that, he's also just a Make American Great /white supremacist. Like when he was still lying about being Japanese for whatever reason, he said, I support Trump, I think he's smart for that country, or I think abortion is murder when it's not his choice since he's not a woman and he shouldn't be able to decide what a woman needs to do since he's never going to date one and that's not his body. He doesn't seem to realize half of the shit he does isn't cool. It's corny. Talking about murdering gay people isn't cool. It just makes you seem like a psychopathic freak with some serious self-issues. Talking about how you fucked your teacher in front of a 14-year-old at the time isn't cool. It makes you seem like a pedo and a creep. I feel like that guy needs to be put on a list or something, honestly, or just have his internet access taken away from him. At the end of the day, he's a loser 23-year-old who has nothing better to do but suicide bait and have Yukari bots to sexually please himself, unfortunately. He also has speaking of that, he also has really weird habits to make fanfictions of him and Yukari and her Iwatodai age. He named her shit like Yukari Keffer. What's even worse is he shows this to everyone. He doesn't care how old you are. He'll show this to adults and kids. He'll probably show this shit to like 6-year-old girls because he thinks it's cool. And he likes writing about her being impregnated as well. And if caught, he will lie and leave service to save his cowardly fat ass. He had some sort of weird beef against me that was one-sided after me calling him out in Depressed Luffy's Discord server. Then he decided to join, harass me to the point where I had to tell moderators to mute him. Then he left and started mass DMing people not to talk to me. If you value your mental health and like having good friends, just don't ever talk to that sad, pathetic, fat-ass nigga. Alright, I'm done.
I may not have known Ron for very long, but first I thought he was alright. We had a decent conversation. But after a while, I started noticing things. What really weirded me out was when he was acting like a video game character. I understand that the game is good and all, but that's a bit too much. Also, you really had to walk on eggshells when talking to him, or else he'll have a temper tantrum. You really couldn't joke around with him because he wouldn't understand it because of his autism. He has some weird perspective on the gacha games, calling them pedo bait, when that's not necessarily the case because there's a lot of gacha games and calling them pedo bait is very disingenuous. I thought it was a bit strange that he was beefing with Cole when he was a minor at the time, because Ron was an adult, and adults shouldn't be beefing with minors. Oh well, that's just how I see things. But either way, Ron should have done better.
At first, I thought he was a great guy. But then reality set in for me whenever I tried to vent about some not so great personal issues I have and about past trauma that I have. He would constantly say that he'd have it worse, and I say I didn't have it that hard, and he had it worse than everyone in the group. When I first met him, he tried to make himself the friend group's leader because he thought and pretended and literally thought that he was the IRL Makoto Yuki, then the IRL Yunarakami, then the IRL Dante, and now IRL Virgil from Devil May Cry. When in reality, he's just a creep who obsessively stalks people. This guy's biggest fear is a job application and being unable to admit why he treats people the way he does up to this point. The pathetic part about this is that I used to be like him in the sense of wanting to be the main character all the fucking time. The difference is I knocked that shit off. And now, I am starting to mature through my failures and mistakes. He also guilt-tripped me into becoming his friend again, which I admit is on me for falling for that shit. He also just lacks general empathy for people different from him. When I told him that I may be bi and was told that I was weird, it would be more of a mindfuck if I was just plainly gay. Yeah, he's super homophobic. Now, onto a really good friend of mine whom Ron also did wrong by.
Okay, so my first encounter with Ron was kind of meh and unforgettable. 0 out of 10. Needs better work, and yeah, he's pretty boring. So, the next time that I entered VC with him, he was talking about OCs when he described his OC. And I did give him some criticism, which he did not take well. Which ended up getting offended over it and saying, "Oh, you don't know how to write or make a good character." I rolled my eyes. So he tried to annoy me, but all I said was, "I don't care," and he said, "Wow, nothing gets to you. Obviously, you troglodyte." There were a couple of times when I made some jokes and he didn't laugh. I think he did it on purpose. Yeah, there were some jokes that were obviously jokes and he took it seriously. So yeah, he's pretty dumb. Let's see. So the next time we talked, David was there in VC as well, and Ron admitted to murdering someone in a school when he was in high school. I don't believe he actually did it. Yeah. So he said, "Oh yeah, there's this guy who ripped up his Bible and he just bust someone's skull. He busted the kid's skull in, and the guy died in the hospital." Which, again, that's not self-defense. He says his lawyer got him on self-defense, which I don't think I don't think that actually happened, because that's an obvious murder. So then his narcissism grew more and more by the day, and he has a weird obsession with
an underage character named Kari. So yeah, and also other video game characters he kind of creeps over. Sometimes they're on the younger age. I guess he does not know how to power scale or just have media literacy, which he doesn't. He doesn't understand fight versus battles, so he's pretty dumb on that part. Like saying Virgil can beat Sephiroth, which he can't. He hasn't looked too deep into Final Fantasy, which he hasn't. If he has, he would know. Alright. Then the falling out happened, and he started to annoy me in DMs, so I just ignored him from now on. Yeah. So he got really annoying in DC DMs, and he just continued to try to invite me to a server, which I ignored. And I ignored everything that he has posted. So that was my experience with Ron Keffer. So there we go.
I'm kidding when I said that this would be the last video of me exposing Ron Keffer. Honestly, the dude is in a very deep end to the point where, honestly, I don't think that he deserves a redemption arc. I genuinely think that Ron Keffer has put himself in that hole, trying to craft the rope, only to craft something else instead. The dude was lying from the start, and he wasn't providing proof. And even if we asked to provide proof of this thing, he would always say an excuse, saying something that's super believable, trying to manipulate us into his lies. Well, no more. Ron Keffer, you're officially done. The council has decided. You should have done better. Really should have done better.